Have any questions, I would request you to please hold on till the end of panel discussion, because most of your questions would be answered as part of the questions that I have on hand. If you have any other questions, you may feel free to reach out to the panelists here as part of the dinner conversation. Yeah, I can get started. So I think the first question is to Anil. How does the DeFi system differ from the mainstream banking system? How does the banking industry, what is their opinion on CBDC? And is there any potential for the convergence of the two in the future?
Yeah, of course. I think I just spoke about this in the session as well. There has to be convergence, right? Or else any of those financial system will not work. So something that gets converted into one form has to get converted into the other form to retain the trust in the banking system. So if that trust is lost, then none of the system would work in banking, right? So if you look at both the traditional system as well as DeFi, what would add value here is the trust is already there in the existing system, or else banking itself will not come into play, right? But DeFi adds a layer of further trust, because most of the scams or something that has happened is because of that immutability not available in the centralized database. With DLT coming into picture, an additional layer of security is being there from a technology standpoint. So that gives an additional layer. The scams that were happening because of some gaps in technology implementation in your traditional technology can be averted now, right? So one example that I would say is, I think recently you would have come through some news items that there is a forensic audit being happening at Bandhan Bank, right? True, not true, that's a different issue. But if RBI is inquiring a forensic audit on the loans that were given by Bandhan Bank, and these loans were being refunded by the central government under a certain scheme. Now there is a doubt that these loans were fictitiously created just to take the subsidy from the central government. Now if a DLT is into this place, one, this forensic audit itself is not necessary, because you can't give a loan with the same set of documents to 10 different people, right? That's one. So the possibility of giving loan itself is disseminated. Second, conducting this forensic audit is just a fraction of second, right, with the data that you have. So of course, I think this has to merge, and I think lot of value that's going to come with the implementation of DLT going forward.
Sure. So when you say with the implementation of DLT, we know that there are few banks who are already part of CBDC, but there are many other banks who are still not part, and there are other financial institutions like insurance sector, etc. So what does it take for all of these financial institutions to get to DeFi space?
Yeah, so I always believe that mostly in the banking system, which is dependent on trust, the regulator plays a very vital role. Now, if you look at CBDC, it's come from the regulator, right? I could relate this from my past experience, right? I've been a voice broker on the debt market side. There were questions being asked like whether you can go live trading on debt platforms. There were many independent broking houses, institutions building platforms on online trading in debt, but that finally did not become successful irrespective of the best functionality being available. But once RBI came with an NDS, right, negotiated dealing system, everything fall in place, because then there's a regulator who is telling you, no, nothing else, you have to follow this, right? So that's a guideline. And all banks or financial institution in India or any other country falls under the regulators purview, right? So if a regulator says that nothing doing, CBDC has to be followed, but as I speak, I have internal information from banks being forced by the regulator saying that a certain percentage of a transaction has to go through to CBDC, one. Second, in any, let's assume even UPI transactions or any other adoptability comes into play when the majority of the participants start accepting that. The rest are all forced to accept, right? They don't have any choice. One good example could be digital transformation, right? So most of the private sector banks voluntarily went for digital transformation because new age private sector banks started implementing digital way of doing banking, offering services at a lower cost, sitting at home on your mobile. So now if you look, most of the PSU banks who were not willing to invest in technology are forced to invest in digital transformations, right? So something you do willingly, looking at foresight, something you will be forced by the regulator, or the market will force you for you to survive in the market. So I feel that it's a matter of time. There could be initial adopters, or there could be people who will be forced. The third would be the regulator pushing them that this is the only way of doing business.
Okay, sure. Thanks for insights. So when more and more banks get to DeFi, I could see that similar to how we are making UPI payments, in the future we would be making payments using digital currencies. But we all know, right from 2016 when there was demonetization, we went from cash payments to cashless payments by using Paytm wallets, by following the UPI payment applications. So now the informal sector like street vendors, merchants, they have invested a lot in adopting the cashless payments, having a QR code application to get their payments done cashless. So what does it take for them to adopt digital payment currency, digital currency payments? What I would like to know your opinion on that, Manish.
Yeah, so that's true. There has been a lot of investment on payment systems, UPI being the center stage on that. It's not going to go away. So think of it, CBDC is also currency which lives in a wallet. The only thing is this wallet is not in your pocket. It's a digital wallet. And when a digital wallet has something, you just think of it like a physical wallet. So if you have 500 rupees in your physical wallet, similarly you have 500 rupees in your digital wallet also. And if you need to pay, let's say on a street vendor, two ways you can do today. You can make a UPI payment, but if, let's say UPI payment is not working because of network failure or something, what do? You bring your wallet out and make a payment. Similarly, even CBDC payments can be done using that wallet, number one. The other thing is there are other possibilities which are opening up with CBDC. If your wallet has that money, just like a physical wallet, you should be able to spend it without network also. So the possibilities which are being explored right now is if two devices, two phones come together, very close to each other, there is a phone-to-phone network that works. And if that network works, then I should be able to transfer some money from my digital wallet to the digital wallet of the next phone, which are just next to each other. Now, this will not need any Wi-Fi, but there is a phone-to-phone network, maybe over Bluetooth network or other networks that can be used. And then these transactions are kind of, settled with leisure at a later point of time when they come online. If you want to make a payment, there will be same QR code. On the merchant, you scan it. The only thing is you don't pay it via UPI, you pay it via digital wallet. UPI may also need to tweak a bit to incorporate digital wallets. That is there, but that's an adoption which I think all the payment systems need to do. Not only that, your RuPay cards. So for example, you would know that UPI has adopted credit card payments now along with debit card payments, which means if you want to pay using your credit cards, you can do it through UPI directly. You don't need to bring your card out. Similarly, UPI will adopt digital wallet payments also. So the existing infrastructure is not going to go away. It's all going to, get new features, get integrated with the new one.
Sure. So when you're considering India's topology and the reach of technology in India to different areas, especially rural areas, how do you think DeFi or payment using CBDC is going to impact the way they do transactions right now, considering the factors like the accessibility, trust, and the traditional practices that they currently have?
Yeah, so even with UPI, so the question that you asked is true with even for existing way of making payments. So with UPI also, so my dad, even today when he has to get some cash from the bank, he does it through check. He doesn't use ATMs. And so there are people in remote areas who might not be at the same pace as technology is growing. That's true, but I think the newer generation is pacing up. And as long as for an end customer, if they know how to make a payment using their phone or using any of the device they have, it's fine. I think the rest of the things may be transparent. If you see, even on UPI, now you don't need a smartphone all the time. You can make a payment via some SMS protocols. And the same protocols can be used for a digital wallet as well, for a CBDC. Not much of a change for end user, and similarly not much of a change for merchants. It's just a middleware which is getting enriched.
Sure. So there is one last part for the adoption, right? For everyone to adopt to CBDC-based transactions, which is trust. And I think you highlighted that in your presentation as well. With the current banking system, we can be in the peace of mind that my banking data, financial data is not getting anywhere outside of the central system of each bank. Now, with the advent of distributed systems or decentralized systems, now we have a network. How do we still have the trust, or is the trust on the network still there?
That's a good question. So earlier my data was with one server, now it is with 5 different servers. See, these networks will be run by established partners. Anybody cannot go and become a partner there. So if your data is secure with let's say one of the bank, you go and open your accounts in all the banks, and you keep transferring between your accounts. I think even if the data is there with all other banks, it can be secured in multiple ways. One is the two parties which are, so for example, let's say you're transferring from one account to another account, and the two banks who are involved in that transaction, probably they can actually see the data in a format which is readable. But other banks can evaluate whether the transaction is correct or not, but they cannot see the data in text format or in a readable format. So that way your data, they cannot probably steal the data or do something about it. So there are many techniques which can be used to segregate the readable data to only limited partners who are involved in that transaction, in spite of being in a larger network. So that is one way. The second way is, even if, let's say, everybody is able to see the transactions, not a big deal, because they're all trusted partners. And there is a trust level, there is a brand which is at stake. Anything that goes wrong, it's not easy. The other thing is, in a blockchain network, whenever you try to get data, retrieve data from a blockchain, your reads are also recorded as a transaction. So everything that you do on a blockchain is recorded. So for example, let's say you read a batch of records. This batch of records, when you read, was recorded as a transaction. So anything happens on that batch, you can always trace back and say that I can find the trail that this particular entity or this particular peer in the network tried to grab a batch of records, and after that something happened. So, it's how the system works. It records everything, and that record itself is, I think it's a foolproof audit trail from the trail perspective. But yeah, things can go wrong, but the chances are lesser compared to what we have today, where, understand one more point, that you keep an item here in open, it's very hard to steal it. You keep it in my locker, I can steal it. And locker will be closed from outside, nobody will know till the locker is open, right? So the data, when it is open and with more people always keeping an eye on it, it's very hard to steal. Because you do anything with it, there's so many people who come to know immediately about it. I think the system which we have currently, where there is one server which is keeping all of your records, and that server decides how to replicate it, how to take a backup of it, where to store the backup, it's all in one control. The chances of loss is a lot there compared to the new version of it.
Sure. I think that clears the air on the adoption part. So after adoption, I feel the next would be to see how CBDC will take the future, right? So in one of the slides, I think Manish pointed about programmable money. I wanted to understand, so now we have direct benefit transfers, and the way it is done currently, there are a lot of gaps where the money that we give for an intended purpose is not getting used for the same purpose. So how do you think, Anil, that the CBDC or the programmable money will change the dynamics of it?
Yeah, I think Manish spoke about this in his session. So the biggest benefit that's going to come from distributed ledger or CBDC, what you call, is the smart contract or the programmable money that you say, right? Some of those issues, right, money has been raised for a certain purpose but utilized for some other purpose, right? Which defeats the purpose for which the money was borrowed. That accountability is missing. Now, if you have a programmable execution in place, even if someone wants, that money cannot be utilized for some other purpose, right? Something like, I could say, we have an annual the fiscal budget being performed, right? You know that the promises are made in elections that a certain amount would be spent on certain stuff, right? Now, if a budget gets passed and you know that this money is going to get for infrastructure, within infrastructure, what percentage is going to go for roads, for building those railway network, right? Some of the one concern that came recently was about the states, right? That we contribute to the major part of the revenue, but we don't get the return back. What if I make a programmable on the taxation itself, that a certain percentage of the revenue goes back to the states where probably the revenue comes from, right? So some of those concerns can be addressed by building those in the program itself. Now there, irrespective of which political parties comes or anyone, you will not be able to change those logics, because the money while raising the money itself, these programs are defined, and you can't change the program because that becomes your Bible for executing those, where the money would move for. And the end goal will be achieved because the money finally goes to the area where it was supposed to go, right? One good example could be even Aadhaar itself, right? Aadhaar made a big change on the leakage into the system by directly crediting the account of people where the money was supposed to go. And this would add another feature on Aadhaar. So because the infrastructure is already set, and I think the beauty about India is last 10, 15 years, we have laid the entire infrastructure starting from Aadhaar, UPI, now with CBDC. I don't think any other country has done tremendous growth on the technology and on the digital currency side the way India has done in the last 10, 15 years. And I think the infrastructure is set. It's now up to the dev community to utilize this and build newer use cases And I think also when I speak with the bankers or the financial institution, those days have gone where you need 10 Java guys, or you need now people with solutions. You have the infrastructure in place, you have technology in place. Now you need to marry the business problem with the technology solutions and go to your customer and probably charge a premium saying that I have a solution for your problem, right? I think
Sure.
I was able to answer your question.
Yes. And you also very well highlighted that we have a core infrastructure for CBDC ready, and the next thing is nothing but building something on top of it. I think my next question was also regarding that, probably to you, Manish. What are the potential services and platforms that we can build on top of this core infrastructure that we have on CBDC?
That's a very difficult question. The mic stopped working. Hello? Yeah. So that's a very wide question. What kind of things can be done are unlimited, and this is true because, understand that we have seen UPI now. We have seen much faster payments, billions of transactions happening every day. So from the scale perspective, we know that we can sustain. I think it's all about use cases and functionalities which were waiting for something like this to come so that they could flourish as well. I have seen a lot of problems in loan industry, insurance industry. So if I talk about insurance, many of us would have gotten health insurance, but a lot of people don't go for health insurance just because they know at the time of claim, it won't go in their favor. They will keep on paying premium, but when they need it, it won't work. And all that happens because end of day, it's not the system who is deciding what should happen next. It is some people who kind of dictate terms, and they brings a lot of hidden terms and conditions right in front of you, and then your claims get either shortened or completely ignored. Smart contracts based kind of platforms are not new. It's all about telling that, hey, whatever decision a human can take, can we codify it? If we can codify it, then let code take the decision. It's only that there was no platform enforcing that codifying. Every platform gave, windows and doors along with walls. So you cannot, it's like this, you cannot, door is closed, but the wall is only this side, you can jump through the wall, So there were those kind of problems in systems. So blockchain kind of enforces that, hey, going forward, without defining a smart contract, without codifying what you want to do in a given situation, you cannot go further. There is no human intervention at the time of decision making. So anywhere you see a problem where a human intervention is causing a problem can be solved. So loan is one where there are some undue preferences given and a lot of money being loaned out. Similarly, in insurance cases, people who need to get the claim, not getting it, that problem will solve. Nowadays, I watch advertisements and every other insurance policy says that, hey, we are better, my claim is better, and all those things, right? But nobody has a system to enforce it. So if there is a system to enforce these things, then they have value. Just by coming and shouting about that, your policy is like that, your insurance is like that, it's not going to help. So similarly, there may be a lot of other things I spoke about. One of the things is like collateral-based loans. Recently, there was a news from US where they wanted to put a micro digital signature on every diamond that is produced and sourced in the entire globe. And every diamond must be a token on a blockchain platform, on a blockchain network, which means that right now what happens is when diamonds, they go from country to country, their original source gets lost. You only know the previous country where it came from. And that's where the originality of it, a lot of lab-grown diamonds are also coming up. It's getting harder and harder to track the natural diamonds. And that's where they want to put a signature on the diamond itself, then put that signature as a token on the platform. And once you have it on the platform, then that token, when it is traded from person to person, you have a complete trail of it. So if I am buying it from you, I can actually, I'm not only just buying from you, but looking at the token, if I look at the transactions on the token, the trail of the transactions, I know where it was sourced from and how many hands it has gone through. Another use case is, again, insurance. So we buy vehicles, we buy vehicle insurance. But when it comes to selling your vehicle back to somebody else, the problem is insurance is not transferable. There are a lot of challenges. Services are not able to do that. And I think all those things which cannot be traded today easily, they can be traded tomorrow. So if I'm selling a car, I can transfer the insurance from my name to somebody else. And this will open up a huge market of, where we can sell a lot of those assets which we are not able to sell today. So buy and sell in an open market becomes much easier.
Nice. Thank you. Thanks for the insights. On the LLM and generative AI, Venkatesh, what are the potential services or platforms that could come next that would complement the DeFi system?
Yeah, sure. Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. So during my presentation, I think we did learn about how LLM can be used in DeFi space, where input is in the form of natural language, and then you use it to perform certain tasks. So one of the, I think, interesting use case can be, if you look at blockchain data, right? It is all structured, and you need, like, let us say, SQL form of querying to be able to query the data from the database. So when you give the input in the form of natural language and expect it to perform like direct querying on the database, it may not be very efficient. So one of the way to look at it is, already people have shown how the LLM can be used to do the code generation. Like GitHub Copilot is one of the example where it assists you, and there have been other examples where it helps you to do the code generation. Here, given the input in the form of natural language, idea is to convert it to SQL, and then that query can be fed to further query the data from the database. So this technique is called like natural language querying, right? And a platform like, I think Dune has implemented it, like it is in beta stage, but it has shown how this is possible, and their tool is called WAND. And interesting thing is, they provide 3 features through this: create, edit, and debug. So it is not like, because fully automating these things may not make sense, right? Given the input in the form of natural language, maybe what if the code it generates has some issues? Then you should be able to like debug it, edit it, modify it. So something like this is where LLM can come into picture and help. And I think other interesting use case can be when we talk about smart contracts, right, in general. So when we talk about creating or execution or management of these smart contracts, then we spoke about how LLM can basically ensure it is all secure and efficient. Another use case can be, let us say, if we are talking about Open Zeppelin kind of library, and by looking at its vast library, and if user has certain requirements, right? And based on those requirements, can we use LLM to generate the custom smart contract, actually, right? Based on the existing templates. So this is maybe another use case where LLM can help, yeah.
Sure. On the general integration or merging of LLM with DeFi, what are some potential drawbacks or flaws that you see, and or how can we mitigate them?
Yeah, sure. So I think first one is obvious. We did speak about hallucination part, where output is maybe like random in nature or irrelevant information and doesn't have anything to do with input in terms of context, right? So one of the way like when we think of using LLM or generative AI for the sensitive or tricky areas, like let us say finance, healthcare, it is always advisable to use it as an aid. Idea is not to replace blindly the entire operations or the entire workflow. So you have to always balance between harnessing the AI and bringing the human into picture to make the critical decision. So that is really important. And other can be just like other machine learning algorithms, LLM can have bias and fairness problem. Let us say maybe because of the data it is exposed to, it has bias towards certain protocols. So you have to continuously monitor these models and algorithms, ensure these are like unbiased and fair. Maybe what if they are unfair to, like let us say, based on the address template or the maybe the some of the other details, if there is any, because these kind of things can definitely come from the data it has been exposed to. So it is important to ensure there is a continuous model, underlying model monitoring in place, and you further fine tune these algorithms to ensure that it is all unbiased and fair to all the scenarios. And third one can be, I think, this is like generic and applicable to all the areas where you need to basically the concerns related to privacy and security, right? So you need to ensure user data is all protected, and importantly, when you use the LLM, it is like AI generated data. So let us say it is used for the transaction analysis, right? Some of the use cases that I showed. Then it is important to ensure that this generated data, there is no unauthorized access to this kind of data, and the data is not misused. Yeah, I think these are the, like, some of the risks, and maybe definitely there are ways to tackle them to an extent.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for your insights. I think I have one last question. So I'm a developer, and I would like to see how the developer ecosystem will be in the future, like what enhancements that we need on the developer ecosystem to embrace DeFi space.
See, from dev's point of view, nothing much changes, because when I picked up this technology, I never used it before. And then I realized it's just an arrangement that we need to understand about DLT. Rest is all same. Your tech languages do not change. The way you are writing services do not change. Yes, this is more towards, so there is a little bit of a paradigm shift. We have come, because of coding platforms for a long time, we have gotten away from standards and specifications. But banking domain has never gone away from specifications and standards. If you look at credit cards, MasterCard and Visa, before they started, they wrote a specification. There was an ISO spec which was written. And both of them followed it till very recently when RuPay came in and they wrote the entire specification again. But RuPay also came back and started writing specifications. So as long as it's a mindset that we need to change, so earlier days when developers start their journey, it's told that, hey, write code towards interfaces. I think it's the same philosophy which moves on with specifications and protocols, that code towards them rather than just start coding anything. Define the contracts first, and then do the implementations. And then you have an ability to actually uncover many different kinds of implementations to it. I already told, somebody asked, so IBM Hyperledger Fabric is Hyperledger Fabric. That's the tool name, that's the software name. Developers can work with, they can start using it, try it out to learn about the blockchain technology. And once they know it, I think trying out creating your own network, a small network, is not that difficult.
Sure. But we have already invested, banking systems over the last 20 years, they have invested a lot in adapting to the changes in the way transactions are done. with respect to time and effort and money as well. So now, what is the impact for them to rewrite, in the sense to make digital payment?
See, it's a mindset disruption, but not fully technology disruption. So it's not that it's going to be a big rewrite, but yes, these networks did not exist, so we need to code them, get them working, make sure that there are partners who take part into these networks, because these networks need to bring, at a technical standpoint, if you think, these are like many data centers coming together to run a network. If you look at platform, we mostly talk about, you go to one region and you build your entire platform there. Maximum you go to second region to keep your unwanted events. In those events you can back up the data and you can get back. But here it's not about one region or two region. Here it's all about n number of data centers coming together and creating a network. It's a lot more network devs intensive, because such developers will be required a lot. I know AWS and GCP would have hired every such developer already, but then these kind of devs will be required more now.
Yeah. Thanks for your insights. I think we have come to the conclusion of the panel discussion. As we conclude, I think we need to reflect on the immense potential that the DeFi has on some innovative collaborations. I would encourage the audience to continue exploring and continue working towards this more resilient, building a more resilient and inclusive financial ecosystem for all of us. Thank you for your insights, all the panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you.